Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. Isis, Imitation of Life. The Goddess Next Door helps a young black girl overcome racism during the era of Jim Crow in this Golden Age Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Imitation of Life in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today.
Hi everyone, it's your boy Shawn, and I'm here with a comic review video from one of the comics I picked up on Kickstarter. Now, this comic was suggested to me by someone in the State of Black Science Fiction Facebook group, and after I read the page on the Kickstarter, I decided to put in a pledge for the search for Sadiquah, and I have to say that this is one of the best comics of 2019. Now, the search for Sadiquah is a black manga about Sadiquah, a young 13-year-old black girl who was living during the time of Black Wall Street. And as the story goes on, we find that Sadiquah is possibly a descendant of a group of strong black female warriors, and the story really sets up her quest to find herself and discover more about her history and her heritage that has possibly been lost. And this zero issue does a great job of introducing us to Sadiquah, who she is, what she wants to do, and most importantly, why should we care about Sadiquah. And I'd have to say, creator Greg Burnham has done an amazing job with the story for the search for Sadiquah in the zero issue, setting up the character, setting up the premise, and taking us back to a time of Black Wall Street and a time where black people were proud to be black. Because that's what I felt as I was reading The Search for Sadiquah, was a strong sense of pride, seeing people that look like me in a period of Jim Crow, showing how they were going to be the best people they could be in terms of values and character. And we see that in this story as the Sadiquah character, as it starts on the splash page, introducing us to Sadiquah in the night of her greatest tragedy, and the flashing back to the day before, where we see Sadiquah, a young, ambitious, hard-working girl looking to go out here and be the best girl she can be, and be a good student and a good person. This one, the opening sequence, really reminds me a lot of Peter Parker and Spider-Man, how you have this girl who really is highly intelligent, hardworking, conscientious, and caring, and it does a great job of showing how she wants to be a hero to others, because she has a cousin who is a bit of a nerd, and he's getting bullied and picked on, and she goes out and is a hero, looking to help him out and looking to do the right thing. Unfortunately, what happens in this great sequence, which only takes up about three or four pages, and is very compelling to look at because this art is spectacular. I mean, this art is amazing. It just does a great job of setting the characters up, allowing us to see the action going on, and it moves the story forward in a very, very compelling fashion. And it shows that she is someone who is willing to put herself on the line to help those in need. And that her cousin, she wants to protect him, and she wants to do that out of instinct. And that was something nice to see, seeing a girl being a hero, again, in this time where girls were supposed to be, sugar and spice and everything nice. She's a bit of a tomboy, but she wants to be a hero, and she wants to do the right thing. And unfortunately, be like what I was trying to do in my own story, Easting the Sands of Time, you have a teenager, they want to do what is right, but they don't understand the context of what is right. And that was something I like seeing here, seeing that this is a 13-year-old girl who still wants to do good, but she still has a lot to learn about doing good. And that's something I like seeing because that shows that she's going to have a foundation to build on as the character grows. Because that was something that I was trying to do in my own story, Easting the Sands of Time. But I see that the writer Greg Burnham has done a great job with it here. And he shows how there's still a lot for Sadiquah to learn and to grow because she's just a kid. And I really like this page where she just hits this kid, and because you can just feel the impact of that punch. And I like the little inset. It reminds me so much of old school mangas with that smile. It reminds me a lot of Dragon Ball right there. And then after she has this fight, we see the consequences of that. And again, we see this stuff really reminds me of some of the best mangas out here, like like the ones featured in Shonen Jump. So I see a lot of really good art here is really good, high quality, and again, shakes us back to that period in the 1930s, and it not 1930s, 1920s, because it shows us how there was a ray of light in that dark period of Jim Crow. Now, as the story progresses, after she helps her cousin with the bullies, we then get a segue to her father with this Native American businessman. And this was something I tried to do in my own book, ISIS Imitation of Life. It was something I did where I talked about how some of them were living on Native American reservations, and that's how they were able to have a place where they could be people and get respect like people in this era of Jim Crow, where black people were second-class citizens. And I like seeing this sequence because it showed that black people were in these areas and they were dealing with Native Americans. And I like seeing that the father was very strong. And I like seeing a strong father who was a leader and a head of household in this story. I mean, he really was strong and in charge, and he would not buckle down to this guy, and he would not buckle down to the racists in this story. And that was something that was really, it showed how Sadiqah's upbringing led to her being a hero. And that was something that I like seeing in this story. Again, a lot of it reminds me of the work Stan Lee did with Spider-Man, and a lot of it reminded me of some things as related to my own work on books like ISIS and Easting. I mean, this sequence right here, it reminded me a lot of what I did in the first ISIS, and I really like seeing the art where you're seeing the mother and the daughter bonding, and they're talking about the past and talking about the heritage that they have. And again, it leads to a great and terrible tragedy. I'm not going to show that because I don't want to show too much of the book to get a copyright strike, but everything leads to that tragedy, and eventually Sadiqah has to leave her family home, and she has to leave that family home to go on this quest to find and discover herself. And this book, the Zero issue, does an amazing job of setting up the search for Sadiqah and her search to find this mystical place and find the place of the warriors she is been told that she is a descendant of. And in that quest, she's going to find herself and find out more about what she's capable of doing. So the writer, Greg Burnham, has done an amazing job setting up the foundation for the search for Sadiqah in this story, and he has really captured that period of the 1920s during Jim Crow and presented us a very positive picture of the black community, of Black Wall Street, the black family, and showing us how this leads to Sadiqah growing to become a strong, confident heroine who I believe is going to be able to carry this series for many issues. And I hope to be there to pick up many more of these issues so that I can share them with readers here online so that this book can find its audience, because this book deserves to find an audience. It's just that well done. Everything from the writing on this book is rock solid. Greg Burnham, again, tells an amazing story here. Shannon Sapenter does an amazing job with this art. I mean, he's an artist who his stuff really pops. Every page is downright compelling, and he really gets this story going. And Patricia Dagasen, she does a great job with the colors here, and everything here is just so well done. I mean, this comic, this is one of, again, really solid comic that I would have no problem recommending, and I definitely recommend you pick up The Search for Sadiquah, because we see how in this one story she grows from teenager who wants to do the right thing into the start of a character transformation arc into a very strong and compelling black heroine. And as a writer of black heroines, I can again say that this is one of the best heroine books out there. I mean, as a guy who's written Isis and E-Steam and other characters like Matilda Crowley and many others, the storytelling here is very solid. The heroine has a strong mission. She has a purpose. She has obstacles that she overcomes. Nothing is ever done for her easily. And again, we get a great picture of that period of Black Wall Street, that time where black people had their own businesses, where we had strong families, and we see the resistance that they ran into from numerous forces all around them. And again, when I look at this story, sometimes it reminds me so much of what I was doing with my book, Isis: Imitation of Life, because in that story, I wanted to take you back to the 1930s and show you how black people were heroes in that dark period. And I also wanted to show that during that so-called golden age of comic books, what the real heroes were doing in the black community. Because if it wasn't for those teachers, those doctors, those lawyers, those black professionals, there wouldn't be a generation with the values and the discipline to fight during the civil rights movement, and the generation after to pick up where they left off. So if it wasn't for that great generation of heroes working behind the scenes, we wouldn't have great talent like Greg Burnham and his creative team making masterpiece comics like The Search for Sadiquah, a book that I highly recommend you try to seek out if you ever go to a sci-fi or a fantasy or a manga con, or if you see the next Kickstarter for the first issue, because I'm going to be putting in a pledge for that first issue, and I urge you to put in a pledge for that issue and pick up this number 0 issue as well. And if you want to pick up my SJS Direct Fantasy Flashback books, Isis: Imitation of Life and E-Steam: The Sands of Time, you may do so by clicking the links to Amazon.com, by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to see me review more great comics like The Search for Sadiquah, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App so that I can have the money to put in the pledges for these awesome comics. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe.
Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, E-Steam: The Sands of Time. It's action and adventure in ancient Egypt in this terrific teen time travel romance. Get your copy of E-Steam: The Sands of Time at your favorite online bookseller today.